What's up guys, it's Richie Rich back yet again, and this time I'm doing a review of the 1996 romance film starring the great George Clooney and Michelle Pfeiffer, and this is One Fine Day. Be sure to check this out. By Michael Hoffman, fabulous decorated director who also directed The Midsummer Night's Dream, which came out in '99, and Restoration, that came out in 1995. One Fine Day is a romantic comedy, warm fuzzy family film that's perfect for, of course, this time of year, the Christmas season. What the film touches about is like the whole idea of like single parenthood, of single parents, as the two title characters, George Clooney playing Jack Taylor and Michelle Pfeiffer playing Melanie Parker. Both of them have two children from their previous marriages. Both are divorced, and funny enough, both of their kids, the boy from Melanie Parker and the girl, the 5-year-old girl from Jack Taylor's, both of them are the exact same age. So the whole film is talking about like, kind of like how opposites attract, because the film's saying is, one of my home away from homes, NYC, Manhattan, but like the, one of Hollywood's like greatest leading men ever, George Clooney. At this time, George Clooney was he was just about to break out from the 90s television series, the ER, where he played Doctor, I believe it was Doug. He was playing the Doctor as part of the the stuff like recreating events of like what happens in like them busy kind of like emergency wards, and it's like as George Clooney was in there, like he became the audience really liked him as like this kind of like charming, kind of handsome doctor, gorgeous George, so he was able to pick the the attention of like seeing him on the TV screen. They wanted to get him on like these motion pictures such as this. I believe the biggest breakout was like From Dusk to Dawn, directed by Quentin Tarantino. One of my favorite films he had was Outside, and he was in the Batman and Robin film. But it was around, like I said, from the mid 90s towards mid 90s towards like the kind of early 2000s. That's where George Clooney's like film like the movie star George Clooney really started to pick up and rise. Michelle Pfeiffer, who just this bona fide like bombshell blonde. A lot of people probably was first introduced to Michelle Pfeiffer from the Scarface film with Al Pacino, legendary gangster film from the 80s. I was introduced to Michelle Pfeiffer as Selena Kyle, and Catwoman, which Batman Returns 1992, and she appeared in Wolf, and she appeared in another film I love is Witches of Eastwick with Jack Nicholson. So like, yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer was always even before this film, she was already like a name in Hollywood already. I believe she's even a couple years older than George Clooney, but her breakout was way before. She was already like a bona fide star in Hollywood already. So when she's cast in there, she's already fits perfectly in this film alongside George Clooney. Lots of this is, so you're introduced to the two main characters, Michelle Pfeiffer playing Melanie and George Clooney playing Jack, and it shows the jobs that they're doing, so Melanie's working as an architect. As mentioned, George Clooney's working for the New York Daily as a reporter. Melanie has the son. Melanie's son is named Sammy, who's also 5 years old. you know, sweet adorable kid. And alongside that, George Clooney's girl is Maggie, also the same age as Sammy. You know, at the beginning of this film, she's kind of just like thrust into daycare, because with you know, Jack Taylor's, you know, his ex-wife, you know, she keeps on coming into his life, you know. I mean, even though they're divorced and fine, she keeps coming in obviously to see their child, you know. So like she kind of wants to get Maggie into daycare, you know. She doesn't believe that like George Clooney can take care of the daughter as a single parent, you know. So she just wants to put her straight into daycare. What goes on to happen is, as they get to daycare, they arrive too late. So like, and this also goes through, as Jack and his daughter Maggie arrive to daycare, they unfortunately get there too late. Similar circumstance with Melanie's son Sammy. You know, they get to daycare too late. You know, so they're in this kind of position that because of their hectic work schedule, being based around New York City, you know, they've got to be with the children and supervise them as they're going to their jobs. Like during the start of the day, as this 1-5 day, you know, they both share a taxi, you know, the famous yellow taxis, cabs that you can see in New York City, you know, the ones that, you know, guys like me can't catch, you know, did I just say that? But yeah, the ones, the yellow taxis, you know, as they get inside, you know, they both like actually switch their cell phones, you know. So from on this, like, you know, throughout the film, at least till they meet again, you know, they're receiving like different like phone calls from like the other, you know, person, you know, from like Melanie's character or Jack's character, you know, calls that were intended for them. It's been switched through. For like Michelle Pfeiffer's character, Melanie, she has this kind of important architectural presentation that needs to be delivered to a very important client at the firm she works at. Then alongside this, her Jack also is trying to pick up a big scoop for New York's mayor's mob's connections. That like you know, George and Michelle got like their you know, their work like basically cut out for them, you know what I mean, to do like what they've got to do, which is like so priority. But then they've got their children alongside them the whole day. It makes them feel like very you know, just very like you can see them like as they're with each other, you know, they're always just on a move, you know, they're always rushing, you know, and they sometimes lose the ability of just like, you know, just do simple things, you know. And this also ends up like, you know, when you know, Melanie's at her firm and she's got a presentation of the you know, for what she's got a presentation for the architect design, you know, due to like her son kind of like, you know, playing around, just being a kid, Sammy, he ends up tripping her up and she falls flat on her face and squashes the whole design, you know, thus causing her to basically like, you know, she was able to kind of sweet talk like the important clients and say like you know, like this is not kind of what it looks like, you know, this is like a draft, you know, I have the real design which I'll be able to give like later on, you know, I just need to kind of like recess, you know, to go sort that out, you know, because she's really frustrated of like what her son did. She takes him straight to the daycare, you know, and it's like, no, I've got to put him in daycare, you know, he's interfering with my, like what my work schedule is, how vigorous it is. So as like that model, you know, the scale model that Michelle Pfeiffer, you know, accidentally fell on, you know, she goes to a store to get that repaired, you know, immediately, you know, and as like she's trying to take him to daycare, you know, turns out there's this kind of like you know, days you can dress up as your superhero, you know. So Sammy was gonna go in there and be the only one without costume, you know, and that just reflects bad on the parent, because the parent wasn't there to fully like you know, understand like, okay, what he's doing these days, you know what I mean, that kind of like responsibility of the parents, you know, you should know like what's going to be going on in school, you know. So she has to kind of like again abandon her like duties at her job, you know, get that fixed and also get a costume for her son. Same thing as well with Jack, you know, because he's got his news source later on, you know, he needs to get this like with what's going on with the mayor, you know, and like he's like kind of dirty business that's on the side, you know, he also has to get like a similar thing for his daughter, you know. So what happens is like you know, as their phones switch, you know, and they both got their contacts, you know, they both got their cell numbers back, Melanie actually decides to you know, ask Jack, you know, could you please just like collect the kids from school because I'm gonna be busy showing this like new and improved the models that's repaired back to these clients, you know. And she says like, that's cool, I can pick them up, but you just have to kind of pick them, you have to basically do the same thing for me because I got this important news source later in the day, you know. So it happens like both of them are just like taking both of the kids, you know, Sammy and also Maggie, taking both of them on each other's hands, you know. And it's also cool because it's all shot through like one whole day, you know what I mean. So the time is way more stretched, you know, how like they're going from like different parts within New York City. And Michelle Pfeiffer, Melanie's now has, you know, has the kids, you know, Sammy and Maggie, you know. Maggie actually just starts wandering off, you know. And just a quick note, I know this happens a lot because, you know, I was doing like babysitting duty earlier this summer, you know, and I had a I had one of my like a little member of my rich team who kind of wandered off. So I remember this scene like very hardly because this is something similar that happened to me. But yeah, Maggie actually goes wandering off, and she goes so far that you know, this causes distress in Melanie, Michelle Pfeiffer, you know what I mean, because she's just wandering up because you can really see how like ginormous you know, Manhattan can be, you know. So she loses track with like Sammy and Melanie's character, Melanie, Michelle Pfeiffer, you know. So she ends up like having to go to the police, you know, NYPD, yeah, NYPD, and like filing a police report, you know. And it only turns out later that she has been found, and she, you know, so she just wandered off, you know, around New York City. And it turns out that because Melanie didn't even want to like obviously tell Jack that like, you know, we lost the son, so she like busts in when like there's like this big kind of news conference, you know, and the mayor's on the top, you know. And this is what like Jack was there, you know, to kind of get his scoop, you know. So she comes in, but like he was already been told like a while ago that, you know, his daughter had been found. What was there was he was trying to confront the mayor about like the corruption, like these kind of shady deals that like all politicians do, you know. And him as like a, you know, journalist and working for the paper, if he can get this scoop, you know, that's big success for him, you know what I mean. Because there's another like, you know, reporter who's also there, you know, works with George Amanda Peet, who's playing Cillian in this, you know. She also started in a film with Jack Nicholson in the 2000s, you know. She was the one who's also trying to like kind of hit on George Clooney's George Clooney playing Jack Taylor, you know. So they're both they're all like surrounded in this big group of, you know, other reporters in NYC, you know, trying to get the scoop, you know. And the mayor's like right on the top of the stage, you know, about to go into one of his rooms. And yeah, like thing, you know, yeah. So once like he's actually going to think the wife who like George Clooney had been speaking to, like there's them scenes like, you know, you see Jack Taylor, you know, going into the limousine, going and speaking to his wife about like information he could use to basically prove that like this mayor is corrupt, you know. And she appears in that big like kind of room, you know, with the other reporters, you know, and they nail that mayor's evil dastardly deeds down. Yeah, you know, you go back to like Melanie's Michelle Pfeiffer's character, you know, and she's there, she's already got like her model replaced, you know, and she's back now with the you know, the important like architect, like the heads, you know, the one she had to kind of like do her pitch meeting to say like, okay, this is why you should go with this design that I made. As she's going through there and she's speaking to them, you know, and she sort of realized like all the whole day, you know, spending time with Jack, you know, Sammy, and also Maggie, you know, the children, it's like there was this kind of family kind of void that was missing. And it was within that pitch meeting, it actually kind of dawns with her that, you know, if for a long time she was always putting her job first in front of her kid, and she now has to kind of do the reverse and now put the kid in front of the job, you know. So she just leaves the meeting and just says, you know, thanks, but we'll, you know, we'll have to do it some other time, you know. I have my child, you know, that I'm gonna put number one as the priority, you know. And she just leaves the meeting, you know. And I believe the architects, once they actually were impressed, you know what I mean, because she didn't come off as like just plastic, you know, like, oh, you know, I don't mind putting everything away as long as you can give me this job, you know. She had real reasons to basically say, no, I'm gonna leave this meeting, go spend time with my, you know, son. Like, you know, as like Melanie like returns back to go see her, you know, Sammy, you know, her Jack is now back. Jack is back with his daughter Maggie, you know, and they basically go see, yeah, you know, they go to go see like a field, you know, baseball game, seeing like the kids play. It's here where like this here where like Melanie's like ex like husband comes in and basically says like, you know, he can't take Sammy off her hands, you know, because he's gonna be going on tours as a musician with Bruce Springsteen, you know, as like the man in the White House says it, you know, he's gonna go things. So that kind of negligence, like, you know, which I caught as well when I watched this, like, you know, again, you know, putting the job and their kind of goals in front of like your son who is in that age that a parent needs to be there. It's also a thing that like Melanie also saw, you know, and it's like he didn't want to kind of like be that, so he was like, you know what, if you've got to go, you know, the son's gonna be crushed, but at least I'm gonna be there for it. Within this, because it's like, because they're both, you know, they're both from kind of opposite worlds, but they're both like the same kind of like scenarios are playing, you know what I mean, like both like are divorced, both are stuck in New York, both are into each other but no one wants to admit, you know, and both have their young same age children, you know, and both have their kind of divorce you know, the ones that they're divorced with or just keep coming back into like, you know, upset their lives, you know what I mean. So at this time, like, Jack finds this a perfect opportunity to basically make a kind of like reason to go see you know, Michelle Pfeiffer, Melanie, and express like his true feelings from her for her. All there, because you know, I'm pretty sure like, you know, George Clooney's like the master of game, you know. He's like idea to like basically get you know, window to go see like Melanie was to get goldfish. Yeah, gold replace the goldfish that was ate earlier in the scene by the cat. So like the idea was to get goldfish, and like when he actually gets to like Melanie's apartment, you know, he gets the goldfish, and it's just that kind of you know, soft kind of scene, you know, like he allows the kids, you know, to watch TV, you know, and you know, kids are kids, you know, but they're smart enough to know what's going on, you know, but he had some kind of private time with Melanie, and it's just that kind of thing of like, it, you know, it's one of those ones like as you see in romance films or any romance sorts, you know, even in reality, you know, like no one's gonna kind of budge until someone actually does it first, and they usually want like the man to just always you know, obviously be, you know, step up and say like they, you know, what they, how they actually feel, you know. And in this case, Jack just basically tells her like, if I kiss you now, what would your response be? And she's like, oh, I'd probably like it, you know what I mean? You know, he just wanted to like a bit, but it's like it had to be something to set that off, you know. So they get the first kiss from the entire film, like from the start, you know, when they're rushing around New York, you know, from them being on these the opposed jobs, you know, like near the end of the scene, that's where they had share their, you know, first kiss, you know. But first kiss, but what's the cool thing is like, because of all the that hectic and like, you know, the moving from all places around New York, you know, by the time like you know, Melanie wants to kind of freshen up and like, you know, give herself to him, you know, Jack kind of falls asleep, you know, and basically that's been one fine day, or is it? Give my final thoughts as always. Let me give you my opinion of the soundtrack that came out with One Fine Day in 1996, you know. I've not listened to the soundtrack like on a separate side, you know. It was just with the movie on my, you know, like couple viewings I've seen it, you know. So but I was impressed with the main title theme tune, which is called One Fine Day, as the title of the movie, which was which the artist who made it was Natalie Merchant, who it was, and then it was an American rock singer, you know. I listened to the soundtrack like a bunch of times, you know, and it's just a very very like you know, beautiful and a romantic theme, you know, which definitely suits the you know, these two characters within this you know, like the whole day, and it's just it's so excellent that it ties onto the whole with the 1 5 day title, I always say like the music is always a good representation of like the, the film. Sometimes you can have films which is here and the music can be just there, what I mean, but it has that kind of effect that you can just hear that music and you can know that it's from, it's already One Fine Day. If you close your eyes, it's like, oh yeah, that's the film with George Clooney and Michelle Pfeiffer, that nice lovely romantic story. Yeah, and you also had music from Ella Fitzgerald, the Sean Colvin, the ad-libs, and Kenny Loggins. So just like a version of like those kind of artists, like the mostly of like that kind of rock and kind of like country music. The tunes are very similar to the movie I reviewed quite back ago with Jerry Maguire, and funny enough were made in the same year. So if you just like, check out some of the tunes in the Jerry Maguire film, you can see in some way they're very reminiscent to the soundtrack in One Fine Day, which is also excellent as well. Yes, my final thoughts on the One Fine Day in 1996. Right. When I saw this, like, for the first time, it was again like when I watched it. It wasn't in the 90s. It was around like they would always show this around this time now. Christmas time. Because even though it doesn't have like a Christmas theme, it Christmas theme of like it being around the winter season. It just it embodies that whole thing of like togetherness and the whole point, the whole thing of like having like a family, what I mean, that was one strong element that really ties more in the film, even more over, it kind of even more overshadows the romance, what I mean, because like I said, they don't even actually make out until the actual right climax of the film. You get what I mean? George is always there, George Clooney's character is always there, Michelle Pfeiffer is always there, and it's like, they'll intersex in the middle, but it's not until the end they actually get affectionate with each other, what I mean. But the whole thing of like when you can see when Michelle Pfeiffer loses her daughter in this, and that stress of like I need to find my child now, and just put everything on the side, and how that came how that rose up just because of like the whole thing of just putting work in front of like your whole whole values of like being a mother. Same thing as Jack, so he was so like in a rush to get the scoop when he needed to be there to take care of his daughter, and these are like kind of real situations that happens, especially when you're a single parent. Like if you've got your other half and other partner, they can always be there to drop them at daycare, they can be there to pick them at school, help them with their homework, but when you're doing it, by yourself, it just really shows the struggle, and especially being in, because the jobs that they are really like high-end positions, what I mean, that requires their full attention, so it's very difficult to you where they've got to divide like being the parent and being the breadwinner of like an important like positions as both of them have. It just shows like how difficult is, and that was in the 90s, and how it can, how does it translate to people doing it in this era, that's like for you lot to find out. Like I've seen like a lot of like kind of romantic, comedies, Jerry, like I said, this film, it reminds me so much of like the Jerry Maguire film, so much, just even the way it's shot and the music they use, I always, Jerry Maguire is one of my favorite, Tom Cruise films, and like with this film, I feel like obviously it's not on the same like par as Jerry Maguire, like Jerry Maguire, like all the great catchphrases, and I just love how like Tom Cruise and Cuba Gooding Jr. just step their game up so much, With this film, I just feel it's just a nice, it's a nice romance family film. Like you can just watch it, and it's like you don't have to take anything kind of important from the film because it's not meant to be that. It's just meant to be just showing like core strong values of like this is what you gotta do if you're a single parent, like the whole responsibility of having a child, especially at that age, they gotta be your main like focus, because like I said, when they're at that age, it's really gonna shape them how they're gonna be once they do get like into like, you know, elementary and high school, you know, it's them years when you have to be attentive to all their needs and that, you know. So that's one thing, that's one of the things I always took strong from this film, you know. And it's one of these perfect films you can watch with like your, you know, family, as Christmas is the time that you gotta be with your loved ones, you know, not even just family but your friends, you know, you name it, you know. It's definitely a film to watch around this time, you know. But yes, guys, that is my review on One Fine Day, you know, with the charming charm of George Clooney and the beauty of Michelle Pfeiffer. Stay tuned for more upcoming 90s reviews, which, trust me, which will be coming very, very soon. And when that time arrives, I assure you that Richie Rich will be back yet again. Peace to fingers.